You could be doing everything by the book in your Etsy store, but silently sabotaging it. These mistakes won't show up in your dashboard, in your stats. No one talks about them in the forum, and they sure as heck are not in the Etsy handbook. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave. If you're new here, please subscribe. I do new videos all the time on e-commerce, lifestyle, and business success. Today, we are going to talk about silent mistakes that kill your Etsy store. And I guarantee you, a lot of you have done this at least once. Now that I think about it, many of you have done this at least once because a lot of my students do this before coming to me with great products, great stores, great photos, but certain little tweaks can absolutely rock the boat and sabotage your momentum on Etsy. Before we get started, if you would like help in your Etsy store, growing it hands-on, definitely book a free call in the description below. Absolutely free 10 minutes, you and me talking on the phone, how I can help your Etsy store grow. Link is in the description. So the first one I'm going to talk about today is changing your Etsy ads budget too often. Every single time you change your Etsy ads budget, it triggers a series of events, if you will, rather a rocking of the boat per se, that causes your views to dip for anywhere from 1 to 3 to 4 weeks. On the high end, 4 weeks, typically I see 2 weeks rocks the boat a little bit. And if that budget change is a positive one, that's based on other factors, many other factors, if that budget change was a positive one. But if it was a positive one, then you'll see things start to catch on after that 2 weeks. If it was a negative one, if the algorithm didn't like it for whatever reason, it will decrease your views and you will do worse. The worst that I've seen is when people change it very often and change it very emotionally based. You don't want to make emotional decisions in a business. That's one of the biggest downfalls, and we can talk about that in another video, trust me. But because, we're all entrepreneurs and we're creatives at the same time, emotions tend to get involved when it comes to our businesses. So people will see their Etsy ad stats not doing so hot, change the budget, wait another week or two, or even a few days, watch a different video, this, that, and the other, and change it again. That's the worst thing I've seen my students do, is change the Etsy ad budget often. And anytime you do that, it rocks the boat, and it's inevitable. It always rocks the boat. Now, if you have a lot of sales momentum, you're still going to see sales come in from Etsy ads, don't get me wrong. But the main takeaway that I want you to have here in this video is that if you change your budget, please stick to it for 2 to 4 weeks minimum. 2 is on the small side. If you have a lot of momentum and things happen quickly in your store, let's say you have a lot of listings, you've been around for a minute and your sales are pretty consistent, or even if you've noticed that there's nothing you can do to hurt your sales, there are stores like that out there, that there's essentially nothing you can do to hurt your sales, even going on vacation mode, which we're going to talk about later. But if you notice that's the case, you'll still see sales, even if that's the case. And if it is not the case, when you change your Etsy ads budget, stick to it for a minimum of 2 to 4 weeks. 2 is small, like I said, 4 is optimal, and to see what happens. If you change it again, it's going to hurt things. If you change it continuously all the time, it's going to rock the boat so much to the point where the algorithm can't really get a grip on what's going on. So that's number one. Changing your Etsy ad budget way too often, it rocks the boat. If you want a free guide on Etsy ads, the link is in the description for my free Etsy ads cheat sheet. Definitely have a chance to buy the full Etsy ads course through my emails, etc. But the free guide will get you going pretty well. And plenty of people have done really great on just that free ebook. So you can download it in the description below. The next thing I want to talk about, number 2, is large listing changes. So if you add or subtract a lot of listings in relation to how many listings are in your store already, let's say you have 200 listings and you take 50 to 75 listings away, or even add 50 to 75 listings in a very, very short period of time. I'm talking like a day or 2 days, adding 50 or 75. That will rock the boat. And sometimes it can rock the boat to the point where you don't recover from it. Large listing changes in quantities that are disproportionate to your total amount of listings, that rocks the boat, and that can hurt your store. A lot of people will hear about me talking in other videos or even in my courses about how removing your old listings that are pulling your conversion rate down is a good thing, and that it is, but it's not black and white like that. If you do it all at once, I had a student, I kid you not, he had 10,000 listings in his store. When I was telling him this, when he went through my courses and he learned about this concept, removed 5,000 listings in one single day. That hurt. We had to recover from that. That hurt. So adding and subtracting a large amount of listings in a very short period of time, like subtracting, for example, that is much shorter of a process than adding listings. So if you remove 50% of your listings or 25% of your listings, whether you have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 listings, 10,000 listings, or 100 listings, it's more prominent when you have lower listing count. Anything below 1,000, in my experience and in my students' experiences, that's when it really hurts. When you have over 2,000, you can take chunks away, but it is always relevant to the amount of listings you already have. Okay. So if you have 1,000 listings, 100 listings won't rock the boat too much. If you have 200 listings, 100 listings is going to really hurt. Whether you add it or subtract it, it's going to rock the boat for a minute. And there are always extenuating circumstances to the things I'm saying. There's always outlying situations and always odd situations, but I'm speaking from experience in my stores and in hundreds, if not thousands, of my students' stores. So this is what I have seen time and time after again in the trenches with you guys. There is always outlying situations because the algorithm is going to algorithm. It's going to do whatever it wants, and certain niches are going to do whatever they want as well. Plus, there's always outside factors like if a store has social media, has a large following, etc., and sends that to the store, whatever. To move on, I'm going to go to number 3. If you go overdue on your orders, that's going to hurt your store. If you anticipate you are about to go overdue on some orders, change the delivery date, the expected date in your orders section, because that is going to, at the bare minimum, I'll not allow it to go overdue. Sure, the algorithm doesn't like when you go overdue in that sense either, but if it's red and it says overdue, that does not help you whatsoever. I have seen stores essentially shrivel up and die overnight from that happening. And Etsy will, and if it gets bad enough, Etsy will step in and put you and force you on vacation mode. And if it gets really bad, we'll take you down if you're not fulfilling orders. So there's plenty of weird situations where that happens, in success stories where that happens. For example, if you get so many orders that you can't fulfill it because you run out of material or it's just happening so quickly for you, then Etsy will put you on vacation mode. And it's a good problem to have so many orders that it's overwhelming, yes, but it's a bad problem to have when you go overdue. But in the light of this video, what I'm talking about, silent killers, I'm really referring to going overdue on orders and letting that happen a little too often. Now, on the flip side of that, I've mentioned this in previous videos, even years ago. I mentioned this years ago, that if you want to see a night and day difference in your store, try doing 1 day processing time and get that tracking number into the system, print the label the next day and get it in the mailbox and have the tracking number say on in transit the next day. The algorithm absolutely loves that because you have to keep in mind Etsy.com as a corporation is competing with Amazon and Amazon Prime. So the faster the shipping, the more prioritized you will be as a seller. That is not in the handbook and it's not talked about enough in the seller community, at least from what I have seen. So if you want to see a night and day difference, go on 1 day delivery, 1 day processing time and ship your orders the next day. Now I understand that not everybody can do that. And it's not possible for everybody. You might be having to whittle a log into a chair or something and it takes you 2 weeks, whatever, that's fine. That's a different story. But if you're able to sacrifice 3 hours each day, not watch Netflix at the end of the day, whatever it may be, and you're able to get orders out the next day, that does, without doing anything in your store, increase your views and sales. Especially if you already have the best way to see that night and day difference is if you have an existing store with sales every single day. If you have multiple orders every single day and let's say you have it on a week processing time, change it to 1 day processing time, even for the time periods that you can, and see what happens. It's really a night and day difference. The next thing I want to talk about is vacation mode. Now, you may have heard this before, but for the people that have not, I need to cover this because you'd be surprised the amount of people or students that I have come into contact with that have put their shop on vacation mode all willy-nilly, even really successful stores that have put their stores on vacation mode, not knowing the impact of it. You're essentially removing all of your listings from the marketplace. And then when you come back, to expect your store to do the same performance is a little bit naive because you're essentially asking to take your place back in line. If you leave your place in line and then just come back, you're not going to get your spot. You're not going to get injected back into the same exact spots, and you're not going to have the same sales momentum. Now, again, there are extenuating circumstances. I can think of one, only one, to where a student of mine, and I actually did a video on her store where she did 13K in 10 days, an extra 13K in 10 days. This was one of my hands-on coaching students. Again, if you want to book in the description below, free 10-minute call, you can get into that program. However, her store, she was definitely an outlier because the product was so unique that she did go on vacation mode a few times. And it was against my best judgment, I guess, against my recommendation, sorry. But every time she came back, the orders immediately kicked back in. And it was only because it was such a rare product. That's the only reason. That is likely not going to happen to you especially if you're print on demand, or especially if you're in jewelry or something that is a high competition niche. All right. So if you're fighting your way to the top and fighting for ranking, you're not going to get your spot back if you go on vacation mode. What is the alternative? Okay. I like to provide a lot of alternatives. I've provided the alternative and flip side to essentially every single one of these points or silent killers today. And the flip side of going on vacation mode is increasing your processing time to a time period that reflects the amount of time you're going to be gone. So if you're going to be going on a 2-week vacation, definitely put your processing time on 2 or 3 weeks. That way the buyers know and see, okay, no problem. It's going to be that long, and you don't have to be removed from the algorithm. Sure, that does play into the thing that I was talking about with doing 1 day processing time. Sure, you might decrease in ranking or something like that, but in a 2-week period, if you already have sales momentum and you don't want to risk your butt by going on vacation mode, it's a much, much better alternative to just increase your processing time. Now, the last point here, and number 5, is going to be something you might have heard before, but if you haven't, let me be the first to tell you. It's changing the title and tags of existing listings. That triggers the algorithm to reevaluate your listing. Why are you going to change the title and tags of an existing listing in the first place? Because it's not doing well. So if you're trying to change the title and tags of an existing listing and save it per se, you're not going to. It's already a sunken ship. It's already doing bad. Why try to give it a facelift when you could just deactivate it and relist it as a brand new listing? Brand new listings get a new lease on life. So never change the title and tag of an existing listing. It only hurts it. If I was the first person to tell you that, you're welcome, because that seriously hurts people. When a listing isn't doing good, and then we'll go on YouTube, right? You go on YouTube, learn something about SEO, whatever it may be, and then you go apply that to your existing listings. Etsy is not eBay. Etsy is not Amazon. It's its own monster, and you have to learn how it behaves in order to tame it and to ride the beast, whatever. So that's very important. Don't change the titles and tags of an existing listing. The alternative to that is deactivate the listing that's doing bad, first copy it, and then put the new titles and tags on that copy. Brand new listing gets a brand new lease on life. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want help, hands-on help that will help you grow your Etsy store substantially, I highly recommend you book a call in the description below. I have plenty of case studies of new stores doing big numbers very quickly, and existing stores saving existing stores that are decreasing, or taking an existing store that was doing okay and doing even better after that. And there's plenty of case studies on this channel for these situations. So it's a free 10-minute call. You have absolutely nothing to lose. I don't bite, and I would love to talk to you on the phone. Until next time, I hope you have a beautiful day. God bless.